Skirts at funerals are just too revealing. She must be looking for a man. I'm fed up with my husband Kevin's narrow-minded thinking. Divorce? That's exactly what I want. I'm leaving this house. My name is Kara. At 40, I'm a huge chocolate lover who often ends up eating almost an entire family pack by myself. I remember constantly fighting over it with my sister. Looking back, I wasn't the most mature sister. But I know people who are even less mature. I was 25 back then. Just married to Kevin, a banker. We started dating through a friend's introduction and got married in about 6 months. Everyone envied my seemingly perfect life, but after getting married, the kind Kevin slowly started to change. Welcome home, you must be tired. What about dinner? It's ready. Go take a shower, relax and warm up. Kevin expected this routine every time he came home from work. I had to greet him at the door and have dinner ready, or Kevin would get moody. So, I always made sure to leave work earlier than Kevin to prepare dinner and the shower. It was somewhat bothersome, but thanks to Kevin's high salary. We lived in a beautiful house and I had a marriage others envied. I tried not to mind the occasional whims of a husband, thinking it's common in many households. However, Kevin's behavior started to become increasingly absurd. Even after getting married, I often visited my parents on my days off. To see my sister, who was now 14 years younger than me. In our house where both parents worked, I think I was the one who mostly raised her. Not because I was forced to, but because I simply loved her and couldn't take my eyes off her. She was very frail. There were times when she was healthy, but also times when she was repeatedly in and out of the hospital, in a critical condition, thinking that I might suddenly lose her one day. It was natural to have a deeper love for her than for a normal sister. So even after getting married, I kept visiting her when she was absent from school. But Kevin didn't approve of this. Who's more important to you, me or your sister? A wife should devote herself to her husband after marriage. My mom never did such things. You're failing as a wife. Kevin would start lecturing me on his beliefs for nearly an hour. Back then, none of my friends were married. So I confided in a coworker about Kevin. It's your fault. After you get married, you should devote yourself to your husband. She told me. I wondered if that was just how things were. Looking back, I was naive. But even so, not seeing my sister was never an option for me. Because her health got worse. She was hospitalized again and could only have short visits in a sterile room. Rushing to the hospital whenever possible was the natural thing to do for a family. Sometimes I took time off work, even on Kevin's days off, I would go. But of course, Kevin was vehemently against it. One day, he suddenly brought his mother, Amelia, home and, in front of her. What are you thinking? He confronted me. He made me stand up straight, ready to lecture. What do you mean? I'm taking care of everything at home. What's the problem? You really are hopeless. How many times do I have to tell you about your clothes? A wife wearing skirts is just disgraceful. What's wrong with wearing the clothes I like? Besides, this is the dress my sister chose for me. I can't just give it up. See? It's always about your sister. Who do you think should be your top priority? Who is feeding you? What? I work too. There's no need for you to say you're feeding me. Sigh. This is pointless. Listen, I've already called your workplace and told them you're resigning. Be grateful. From now on, you'll focus on being a housewife. What do you mean? Who gave you the right to do that? I won't listen to you. And from today, you'll live with my mom. She'll teach you how to be a proper wife." "This is ridiculous! You're insane! Shut up!" In a rage, Kevin smashed a glass on the floor. And not just that, he started throwing anything he could get his hands on. Seeing the shattered glass, I was truly frightened of Kevin for the first time. I regretted marrying such a person. Later, I called my company to cancel the resignation. "We don't want any trouble, so please just leave it as it is," they said. It seemed Kevin had demanded my resignation in an almost abusive way. And so, I lost my job and became the housewife Kevin wanted. When I reported to him that I had resigned as he wished, Kevin became cheerful. "I guess I went a bit too far. Sorry," he came apologizing. But after seeing Kevin's true nature, I couldn't trust that smile anymore. The next day, Kevin suddenly brought a bunch of his coworkers home. "I thought I'd show off my wonderful wife." And his colleagues would say things like, "Your wife is beautiful, I'm envious." They kept complimenting. And Kevin added, "My wife is a great cook. You all should try her food." He just blurted out, "Wait. This is too sudden. I don't have enough food for so many people." "It's fine. Just make something simple. I'll even go by the ingredients." A colleague, watching the exchange, "Kara, you are so loved, I'm jealous," they exclaimed. No, Kevin is just good at keeping up appearances. If he truly cared about his wife, he wouldn't bring colleagues home like nothing happened after our big fight yesterday. While holding back my anger, I prepared the meal with Amelia. After Kevin's colleagues left, having spent about 3 hours at our house, it happened. You know." "What?" I replied anxiously to Kevin's disgruntled tone, fearing another outburst like yesterday's. "Couldn't you be a bit more pleasant? It's like I haven't taught my wife properly." I wanted to retort, but I didn't dare. I was afraid. "I'm sorry." Even a child can apologize. "Mom, rate her performance today." With that, Kevin turned to Amelia. "Well, you didn't quite honor Kevin. I can't give a score for that. It's just not good enough." "Ha! See, Mom knows best. A masterpiece, you're so bad she can't even rate you." Amelia's words were followed by Kevin playfully slapping my cheek while laughing loudly. "Also, about the meal, I tasted a bit, and it didn't seem to suit Kevin's taste." "That's right, Mom. Tell her more. And what about her dress? She exposed her skin even though there were men among the colleagues. What do you think?" "A woman's collarbone can excite some men, so she should cover it with a scarf or a high neck. It's indecent otherwise." It was all because of Kevin that his colleagues suddenly showed up at the house, leaving me with no time to change before I had to start cooking. Right? Why am I being criticized so one-sidedly? Really, she doesn't learn, no matter how much I teach her every day. She must be slow-witted. No doubt. Ha ha ha. Eventually, I was forced to stand and receive a lecture for nearly 2 hours. By the time I finally got to shower and tried to sleep, it was already 4 a.m. I had to prepare Kevin's lunchbox, so I decided to give up on sleep. Even after that, Kevin's wife training continued as I kept visiting my sister. About a month and a half later, I received the news of my sister's passing. I wished it was a lie, and the first thing I said to my mom, who broke the news, was, "It's a lie, right?" I said. I had been warned many times about her precarious condition, and I had just visited her. I thought I was prepared, but my heart couldn't catch up. Just 14 years old. My sister, who had been in and out of the hospital, fighting through painful treatments, did she have a happy life? As her sister, had I managed to bring joy to her life? However, the last expression I saw on my sister's face in the hospital was a smile. She didn't seem to suffer. "You tried so hard, rest now, and thank you for everything." With tears streaming down my face, I hugged my sister for the last farewell. The wake and funeral went by in a blur, and it had been a few days since I returned home. I had informed Kevin of my sister's passing, but of course, he didn't attend either the wake or the funeral. Moreover, he had the audacity to say, "You should prioritize me over someone who has passed away." Disgusted to hear such foul words at a time like this, I ignored him and hung up the phone. After everything was over and I returned home with a heavy heart. Kevin and Amelia were waiting at the entrance, like demons lying in wait. "You're back pretty late, aren't you?" "My family has just lost someone. It's not like I could return in 2 or 3 hours." "You're good at lying, aren't you?" "What? What? Are you having a rebellious phase? Always making up things and opposing me. Whose wife are you?" "Wait a minute. My sister has passed away." "It's not a lie." "Ha, as if. Seeing you in that skirt at the funeral. Not even greeting me when I come home from work for days. That's impossible." "Impossible? Why? If you loved your husband, you would. You're a useless wife. Don't tell me you're cheating, are you?" "What? Always showing skin. Even flirting with my colleagues before. You just like men, that's all. What a shameless woman. What are you talking about?" "I am." At that moment, I almost forgot my fear of Kevin and was about to retort out of anger. "Divorce then. That's fine, isn't it? A frivolous woman like you doesn't suit Kevin, right? Mom. I mean, divorce is a bit. Fine, I agree. We'll get a divorce." I immediately agreed with Amelia's suggestion of divorce. Kevin kept repeating, "Stop the divorce," but I wasn't listening. I had to seize this chance to get away from Kevin. The thought of his rage was too frightening. I was certain now was the time. So, I quickly packed my things and left the house. Until the end, Kevin was like, "I'll forgive you if you apologize." But it sounded insane to me, so I ignored it. Still, he persistently grabbed my arm tightly at the end. "Wait." So I struck his face hard with my bag and ran away. I headed straight to a certain place. A condo room that was prepared for such a scenario. Right as I entered the room, I got a call from Amelia on my mobile phone. "Hello? Kara? Did you arrive safely?" "Yes. I'm fine. I took a taxi, so Kevin doesn't know." "That's good. Leave the divorce papers to me. I'll make sure he signs them." "Thank you. I'm looking forward to living with you." Actually, Amelia and I had been pretending to be on bad terms in front of Kevin. It was on the day Kevin brought his colleagues home. After the lecture ended and Kevin fell asleep, Amelia whispered to me, "Leave this house. Escape from Kevin." Amelia had been suspicious every time Kevin complained that Kara is hopeless. Apparently, Amelia's late husband was very much like Kevin, and she had suffered a lot. In her time, divorce was considered shameful, and she couldn't get one herself. But she wanted me to have the freedom she didn't. Seeing the interactions between Kevin and me made her think I must help her quickly. So, with the help of her acquaintances, Amelia found a secure property for a woman to live alone. Amelia, Kevin's mother, is incredibly kind, so unlike him that I can't thank her enough. half a month since I started living in the condo Amelia arranged for me. She arrived with the divorce papers signed by Kevin. Amelia! Welcome! Ofufu, I'm looking forward to our time together. Amelia revealed that she realized how Kevin had become only after she started living with us. Until then, he was the good son, showing only his good side to his colleagues. She blamed herself, thinking it might be due to the inheritance from FIL or the environment he grew up in. As for me, even if his childhood was the reason, an adult should be able to control his emotions, so I don't blame Amelia. Currently, Kevin is kind to Amelia because she's on his side. If he knew that she was helping me with the divorce, there's no telling what he might do. That's why, when Amelia arranged this house, "Why don't you stay with me for a while?" I suggested. Amelia hesitated, saying, "I'm just your MIL. We'll be strangers after the divorce. But, after all you've done, there's no such thing as MIL or anything. You're my mom, or a dependable sister." I insisted. I truly feel that way. Even when returning from my sister's funeral, it was Amelia who said, "Let's divorce." She intentionally guided the conversation towards divorce, and I immediately agreed. I thought escaping Kevin would take more preparation and time, but thanks to Amelia, that time came sooner. I'm immensely grateful. I signed the divorce papers Amelia brought and submitted them to the office. Now I'm officially free. But 4 days later, somehow, Kevin found me and was waiting in front of the condo. "I found you! How dare you!" Kevin raised his voice. I wonder if he's found out about that thing. Haha. While thinking this, I kept my cool. "What do you want now?" "The credit card abuse and the missing account balance are your doing, aren't they?" "What are you talking about?" "Don't lie!" In truth, before the divorce, I gradually used Kevin's credit card to buy furniture for this house. I also secretly took compensation money from the bank account for the divorce proceedings. This was my idea. I even consulted Amelia, and she said, "Go for it," so I didn't hesitate to empty the balance. Thanks to this compensation, unemployed me and Amelia are living elegantly, even having tea parties every night. "That's my money." "You're okay with what you've done?" "Your money?" "The credit card was made after marriage, and I contributed to the savings too. It's not yours alone, it's marital property," I said, smiling broadly. Then from behind, "Oh dear, you got found." Amelia returned from shopping. "Ah, welcome back, Amelia." Behind me, Kevin stood there dumbfounded. "Why is Mom here?" "Well, because we're living together." Kevin was puzzled, while Amelia remained calm. "So you lied about going back to your parents' house? But why are you with Kara instead of me? I don't understand." "Kevin, I've abandoned you," Amelia sighed. "What?" "I helped Kara escape here. And by the way, when I brought up the divorce, Kara and I were already working together." "But, Mom, you were always bad-mouthing Kara." "Yes, but all those things I said were actually about you." "What do you mean?" "You're not the brightest, Kevin, and getting all excited about women's collarbones. I thought Kara was in danger with you. No wife deserves a husband like that." Kevin was stunned by Amelia's words. Meanwhile, I couldn't help but burst out laughing at her response. "Mom, I'm your son, right?" "Yes, and it's such a shame. I should have raised a more decent child." Wahaha! I couldn't hold back and burst into loud laughter. "Your behavior is just like Edward's. Watching you, I felt so sorry for Kara, as if she was me." But if Kara wasn't around, you might revert to your old self or even start relying on me. Who knows what you might do? So, I decided to live together with Kara to protect her from you." Kevin's eyes welled up with tears as he listened to Amelia recount the whole story. And when he finally exclaimed, "Is it my fault? Why? Aren't you my parent? That's child neglect." Even Amelia couldn't help but laugh. "Do I still need to parent a man almost in his 30s?" she said. Our commotion attracted the neighbors. "A shameful person." Kevin was scoffed. Embarrassed to be seen, Kevin left without raising his hand to us. But after a night's sleep, or perhaps losing his mind, Kevin vented his frustrations to his colleagues who used to drink at our house. "She's good on the surface, but neglects her husband. A mother who doesn't care for her child. Two people who squandered money." That was how he portrayed us, trying to gain sympathy. But such husbands are a social issue nowadays, a classic example of what women dislike. One woman told him. While not openly agreeing, the atmosphere clearly indicated Kevin is to blame, making his position at work uncomfortable. Pretending to be tough, but actually fragile as glass. Kevin couldn't withstand the stares and whispers of his colleagues and soon resigned. It's ironic how someone who hurled abuse at me couldn't take it when it was directed at him. Feeling lonely, Kevin sent me a bizarre letter trying to justify his actions and boast about his greatness as a man. A staggering 10 pages long. When I saw the thick envelope, I was terrified. I had blocked his messages, but if he could send handwritten letters this easily, I shuddered to think how many more there might be. I've heard of people clinging on after a divorce, but can't he just let go gracefully? Incidentally, the last line of his letter was, "If you ever miss me, feel free to get in touch." So, without hesitation, "Then please proceed with the division of assets." I just replied. Of course, this also led to a lot of disputes. I used to live in fear under the same roof with him, but not anymore. I spoke up boldly and decided to hire a lawyer. In fact, I had been recording Kevin's behavior at home, anticipating a divorce long before Amelia told me to escape. Enduring his harsh words and staying in that house for months was worth it. Thanks to that, I was able to secure a real compensation from the divorce proceedings. And I successfully concluded the division of assets. Afterward, as I started a new job, I moved out of the condo I shared with Amelia. It was actually within commuting distance, but surprisingly, Amelia got a boyfriend. The guy who introduced her to the condo turned out to be her new partner. When her boyfriend came to pick her up, Amelia said, "Come visit us once we're settled." They left hand in hand. I was quite taken aback by Amelia's move. Given how kind and capable she is, it's no surprise she's still popular at her age. As for me, I was so focused on my career that I missed the timing for remarriage. Or so I thought, but with the pandemic, we started having frequent online parties at work. This led to more casual exchanges of contacts with people I rarely talked to. And surprisingly, I received an approach from a manager of another department, whom I had never spoken to before. Initially, I kept my distance because we were from the same company. But as we talked about things we couldn't discuss at work online, we grew closer and started dating. The manager, who hadn't been in a relationship for years after his last girlfriend left him for being too career-focused, said, "I don't want to make the same mistake again." He treated me very kindly. And happily, we're set to marry next year. I was worried about how his in-laws would react to my divorce history. "Thank you for taking our son off our hands." They were surprisingly calm. When I told Amelia about my remarriage, she was delighted. As for Kevin, he found another job at a different bank and remarried. But with his character, he ended up divorcing again. Now at divorce number 3. Being a bank employee with initially polite manners and blaming his past divorces on his wives, he still manages to trap women. Even when Amelia warns his fiancés about his true nature, Kevin skillfully deceives them. But reaching a 3rd divorce probably means he'll start to be shunned by women, and I hope no more victims will emerge. Given the number of women he's wronged, I doubt he'll have a happy ending. Well, it's none of my business anymore. I found a new wife, so let's get a divorce, he said, handing me the divorce papers out of nowhere. What kind of way to say it is that? I replied to Christian, visibly upset. What do you mean? Explain yourself properly. There's nothing much to explain. You're in a wheelchair, right? That means I have to take care of you. I don't want that. So, divorce it is. Shalia, help me! What should I do now? Christian was nearly hysterical, his words hard to make out. His distress was far from normal. Who are you? I responded calmly. Who? It's me, Christian. At first, I didn't recognize him because of his drastic change, but hearing his voice made it clear. Pretending not to know him, Christian seemed quite panicked. My name is Shalia, a 46-year-old homemaker. I have a daughter, Lisa, who's 21. I live with my husband Christian, who's 4 years older, and our daughter. After finishing junior college, I got a job at a construction company. Christian, who was in sales for construction equipment, frequented my company. I was impressed by his diligent salesmanship and took a liking to him. Christian was always very energetic and had a loud voice, and although he sometimes got confused and looked at me with disdain, he left a good impression on me. When he asked me out, I quickly said yes. After several dates, we got married. Our daughter Lisa has already received a job offer. She's set to work at a financial institution starting this spring. Since it's within commuting distance from home, the 3 of us will continue to live together for a while. With her thesis submitted, Lisa is enjoying her last moments of student life. I felt relieved that I was finally getting a break from parenting. However, our family life hasn't been smooth sailing. Christian has damaged his liver from years of unhealthy living. He can't enjoy his favorite drinks and is on a restricted diet. Although working wasn't a problem for him, his frequent hospital visits led to many absences and lateness at work. His physical strength has significantly declined, forcing him to switch from a sales to an office position. Despite my concerns for Christian, I was overall happy. Your liver function has improved significantly. Let's continue living as usual. Recently, the hospital's test results were good. And Christian showed a smile I hadn't seen in a long time. Thank you. Does that mean I can live a normal life now? The doctor responded with a smile. Yes, that's right. This is thanks to your regular diet. Your wife has done a great job. I was so happy I could barely keep a smile off my face. Despite never receiving a single word of thanks from Christian, I was on the verge of tears, holding back with a handkerchief. The doctor's acknowledgement of my efforts was incredibly gratifying and appreciated. Christian frowned in displeasure. Doctor, what are you saying? It's because I've been taking my medicine and taking care of myself, right? It seemed Christian wasn't pleased with me being praised. He complained like a child who had his credit stolen. Hearing Christian's comment deflated my happy feeling. Of course, medicine is important. But the most crucial thing for your condition is your diet. You are where you are today because of your wife. You can't thank her enough. The doctor advised Christian in an instructive tone. But it seemed Christian wasn't receptive to the doctor's words. He didn't even try to hide his displeasure. So, I quickly wrapped up. Thank you. The conversation. Back at home, Christian called his parents to share the good news. He sounded very happy then. Christian always plays the victim, unable to bear not being the center of attention. Though his illness may play a part, I thought of him as a small-minded man. Everyone at work was so pleased. They said it's because of my good deeds. You two are nothing like that. Christian came home in high spirits. Taking such flattery seriously and looking down on me and Lisa seemed truly low to me. As I was about to retort, Christian blurted out something unbelievable. They're going to throw me a recovery celebration. I can finally drink again. I doubted Christian's words. A recovery celebration? You're not fully healed. How did you explain it to everyone? Christian looked perplexed, as if he didn't understand his own situation. How? The doctor said it's okay to live a normal life, didn't he? The normal the doctor mentioned is your version of normal, not the same as a healthy person's normal. He said to continue living as you have been. Christian suddenly looked annoyed. Let's not sweat the small stuff. I know myself better than anyone. I'll be fine for a day. Indeed, Christian had been abstaining from his beloved alcohol for a long time. Then there were the recent test results. I couldn't say I didn't understand Christian's desire to drink. I was worried but decided to give in. All right. Take care. Just make sure not to eat anything high in salt and limit yourself to just a sip of alcohol for the toast. Christian must have felt victorious, showing a smile I had never seen before. Can I really go? Thank you. Just remember your promise. Yeah, I got it. Christian wasn't really listening to me. It was uncertain how much of what I said would be adhered to. Filled with anxiety, Christian ended up going to the party. That night, Christian came home in high spirits, drunk enough to need a cab ride home from a junior colleague. I thought all the effort until now had gone to waste with such heavy alcohol consumption. Afterward, Christian started attending drinking parties once a week. He didn't consult me at all. He just went on his own. Christian then started making me even more anxious. While eating dinner, Christian began to complain about the restricted diet. This is a bit bland, isn't it? It's so tasteless, I don't feel like I'm eating anything. Until now, he had never complained and even said it was delicious. His taste must have adapted to the strongly flavored food he ate at the drinking parties. At one point, Christian even brought home side dishes from a convenience store that seemed like snacks for drinking. He must have convinced himself he was cured, as others thought he was. I was overwhelmed with anxiety. This surely wasn't going to end well. I tried to warn Christian, but it was like talking to a wall. The last results were good, so it'll be fine. All I could do was sigh and hold my temples. Christian's condition didn't last long. One night, he rushed to the emergency room with severe abdominal pain and fever. The doctor's words were gravely serious. Mr. Christian, you have cirrhosis of the liver, and it's quite advanced. You were continuing with the medication and diet therapy, right? I took the medication. The diet, well. Christian awkwardly looked down. Both the doctor and I were at a loss for words. In my heart, I murmured, "It's your own fault." The doctor must have felt the same. At this point, all we can do is slow the progression and alleviate the symptoms. You also need to be careful of pancreatic cancer. Cancer! That can't be! Doctor, isn't there anything you can do? There must be another treatment option. Christian clung to the doctor, tears streaming down his face, begging for a solution. It's not that there aren't options, but... Please, what is it? What's the option? It's a transplant. A living donor liver transplant. There you go, there's a treatment option. Please, go ahead with the transplant. It's not as simple as that. First, we need to find a donor. Then, here. I have one right here. Christian grabbed my arm. A transplant can't proceed without the donor's voluntary consent. I wanted Christian to be healthy. But honestly, I was scared. I couldn't immediately agree on the spot. On the other hand, Christian's eyes were shining. When do we do the tests? Sooner is better, right? Christian was already set on receiving the transplant surgery. My feelings were of no concern to him. After much thought, I decided to undergo the tests to become a donor. I was a match as a donor. Then, the surgery happened in no time. The operation was over more quickly than I had anticipated. Both Christian and I had successful surgeries. I was hospitalized for 3 weeks, and during my stay, Lisa came to the hospital and took care of me. Afterwards, she continued to visit the hospital to take care of Christian. Christian spent a few days in the ICU before being moved to a general ward, and after 3 months, he was discharged. His prognosis was good, with no complications, rejection, or signs of infection, and he was recovering smoothly. A year later, Christian returned to society and started going to the office again. He looked healthier, more vibrant, and energetic than before. I truly thought it was good that we went through with the transplant. However, my condition then started to worsen. I began to cough, experience shortness of breath and dizziness, and often couldn't stand up. Thinking it was a consequence of the surgery, I had it checked during a regular checkup, but nothing abnormal was found. After visiting various hospitals, I was diagnosed with lung cancer. Despite not smoking, I learned that lung cancer can still occur. Lung cancer doesn't have specific symptoms, which is why it was undiagnosed. Fortunately, my cancer was caught early, so I could be treated with chemotherapy and radiation. The dizziness persisted, and I had difficulty standing, leading to a wheelchair-bound life. It was then, as our roles reversed, that a serious situation occurred. Christian didn't come home one night, and I was worried something had happened, but Lisa handed me her smartphone. On the screen was a photo of Christian happily drinking at a pub with his coworkers. This was 10 minutes ago, Lisa said with a look of disbelief. I was flabbergasted. Despite having had a liver transplant just a year ago, it seemed Christian had no awareness of being ill. How much trouble he had caused the family due to this lack of awareness. I worried for nothing. Let's just go to sleep. However, Christian didn't come home that day. He didn't return the next morning either, so I called his smartphone. He didn't answer but sent a message instead. The message said he had left divorce papers in the bedroom for me to file. Shocked, I dropped the smartphone to the floor. I called Lisa loudly and asked her to check Christian's bedroom. Lisa came down looking pale. Mom, this, she said, holding a piece of paper. Taking it, I gasped. What's this? I was filled with disbelief. The paper was a filled-out divorce application. Unbelievable! What kind of person does this? Lisa, possibly out of frustration, was red-faced and teary-eyed. I, on the other hand, had become calm. I felt more resignation than anger or sadness. Then, my smartphone rang. It was from Christian. Taking a deep breath, I answered. As soon as he heard my voice, Christian began speaking cheerfully. "I've found a new wife, so we're getting a divorce, lol." Handing me divorce papers out of the blue, what a way to say it. I replied to Christian, clearly upset. "What do you mean? Explain yourself properly." "There's not much to explain. You're in a wheelchair, right? That means I have to take care of you. I don't want that. So, divorce it is." I felt like everything went dark in front of me. It was more of a feeling of disgust and pity than shock. Lisa snatched the smartphone from me and yelled at Christian. "What do you mean her? Are you even human?" I was still in disbelief. However, I didn't feel sad or hurt. Christian's selfish behavior over time had probably numbed my feelings for him. There was a sense of liberation in me. The regrettable part was that Christian never had any feelings of gratitude or respect for our family. Seeing Lisa looking at me worriedly, I smiled at her. "I'll be fine. I've been over him for a while." It's infuriating, though. Still, I was anxious. With my condition, working wouldn't be easy. Of course, I would ensure to get adequate compensation in the divorce settlement. But that alone might not be enough. Given the circumstances, I resolved to focus on what I could do moving forward. "We have to make sure to get enough compensation from the divorce settlement to not struggle with living expenses." I renewed my determination, clenching my fists tightly. "He's got a healthy body now, so we should get what we're entitled to," I said to Lisa, who nodded vigorously in agreement. "That's right, I'm not alone. I have my lovely and dependable daughter, Lisa, by my side." 3 months after Christian left the house, an unbelievable situation occurred. I had just returned home from a hospital visit and was about to open the front door with Lisa's support when someone jumped out from a hiding spot. "Shalia, help me! What should I do now?" Christian was nearly hysterical, his words hard to make out. His distress was far from normal. "Who are you?" I responded calmly. "Who? It's me, Christian." At first, I didn't recognize him because of his drastic change, but his voice made it clear. The words I had just spoken were deliberate. I opened the door. Now able to move without a wheelchair as my condition had improved. It would be a nuisance to have someone continue to kneel at the entrance, so I reluctantly let Christian into the house. In the living room, Lisa and I confronted Christian. "What are you doing here?" Christian began to speak, his forehead rubbing against the table. "Please, I was wrong. I want us to get back together." "Ha! The nerve you have to say that now," Lisa said before I could, echoing my thoughts. He had so easily discarded me just because he got healthy. And he had said he didn't want to take care of me. What does he want now? "Just leave, please." Lisa, unable to bear it any longer, grabbed Christian's arm to make him stand up and leave. When Christian attempted to rise, he suddenly clutched his stomach and collapsed in pain. Despite how I felt about Christian, I couldn't just ignore someone in pain. I asked Lisa to bring the car around, and we took Christian to his regular hospital. In the car, Christian was sweating and groaning, holding his stomach. Upon arrival, I quickly called for a nurse, who then took him to the treatment room. While waiting in the lobby, a nurse called me into the treatment room. Christian's doctor was there and began to explain his condition. "Ma'am, you've just arrived, I see." The doctor seemed unaware of my relationship with Christian. There was no point in discussing that now, so I listened to the doctor's explanation. "What's his condition?" The doctor spoke gravely. "As I've explained to him before, there's a strong rejection reaction to the transplanted liver. Immediate hospitalization and treatment are necessary. Lissa chuckled softly in the background. He's getting what he deserves. I coughed to signal disapproval of Lissa's inappropriate comment. But I completely agreed. The doctor pretended not to hear and continued. We need to switch to a stronger immunosuppressant. This medication puts a significant strain on the kidneys. His kidney values are already poor, so using this suppressant will necessitate dialysis. I responded immediately. I see. Please do what you think is best. The doctor seemed taken aback by my quick response. Starting dialysis means being bedridden in the hospital for about 3 hours, 3 times a week. Once it begins, it's a lifelong commitment, significantly impacting one's lifestyle. Normally, one wouldn't make such a decision so quickly. But I have no involvement in Christian's life anymore. What happens to him is none of my concern. The doctor began to discuss the possibility of transplantation. It dawned on me why Christian had come. He was probably hoping for a kidney transplant from me. Seeking help from me because his condition had worsened was far too convenient. Christian should suffer the complications of liver disease and live the rest of his life on dialysis. When Lissa was out, Christian came to our house again. This time, it seems he properly rang the intercom. He was so emaciated that saying he looked haggard would be an understatement. His face was lifeless and pallid, as if he might collapse at any moment. Although I had an idea why Christian had come, I let him into the house anyway. He must have sneaked out of the hospital. Then Christian began to talk incessantly about the woman he was involved with. She was a 24-year-old coworker. She's 3 months pregnant. Christian revealed shortly after leaving our home that the pregnancy was discovered. I thought I had no feelings left for Christian, but his manner of sharing this news made me feel disgusted by him. Anyway, I've decided to go ahead and file those divorce papers we put on hold. But since I have my own life to live, you'll need to pay me a lump sum of $50,000 for the settlement. I stated firmly. It's a bit above the going rate, but considering my illness, it shouldn't be considered too high. There's no way I can pay that, Christian retorted, his face turning red with anger. Ignoring Christian's attitude, I continued. If she's someone from work, she must have known you were married. I'll also be seeking compensation from your mistress in the divorce settlement. Hey, cut the crap. Do you even know who she is? I had no idea who she was. She's the boss's daughter. And she thinks I've been divorced for years, Christian admitted, attempting to justify his deception. I was appalled by his selfishness. That's your problem. You've done enough. If you don't pay, I'll go to your company and have your wages garnished, I said sharply. Please, don't. If the boss finds out about the affair, it'll be a big problem. I thought to myself. It's already a big problem, isn't it? Staring Christian down, he timidly began to speak with a pale face. I'll figure out the money somehow. Just please don't tell the company. If the company finds out, she'll know I'm still married. It'd be cruel to her if she found out about the marriage from an affair. Sympathizing with his mistress? What about me? Christian looked taken aback, then hung his head. I'll arrange the money right away. Just keep quiet about it. I kept my stern gaze on him. Christian knelt on the floor, begging. Please, keep this quiet. I couldn't help but laugh at Christian's pitiful state. Christian explained he would borrow the $50,000 settlement from his parents and the mistress's settlement from a loan shark. As long as it didn't inconvenience me, I didn't care where the money came from. but I made sure he understood it needed to be transferred properly. We agreed he would file the divorce papers after transferring the settlement, and I made sure to get it in writing. Christian left dejectedly. He probably came to talk about a kidney transplant. But I didn't let him get to that point. By exploiting Christian's vulnerability, I managed to settle the divorce compensation without further issues. I was glad Lissa wasn't home. Witness such a mess. Being still legally his wife, I went to Christian's hospital to sign all the treatment consent forms, including for dialysis. I decided to check on Christian and found him and a young woman arguing in the common room. The woman seemed very angry. Their loud voices could be heard outside. "Weren't you supposed to be cured? What's with the hospitalization?" This must be Dina, the mistress. "Please, calm down," Christian replied weakly. "I don't want to deal with an old man in the hospital when I'm about to have a baby." Such a foul-mouthed woman. I wondered if she really was the boss's daughter. As Lissa eyed her suspiciously. "I think I know her," Lissa muttered. Dina continued to rant at Christian. "I absolutely can't handle caregiving." Christian shrank away, overwhelmed and unable to argue. "And what's this about divorce compensation?" Lissa looked at me and laughed. "I just couldn't help myself and sent a letter about the affair to the company president." Perhaps that's why Dina came storming in. "It's practically marriage fraud. He lied about being healthy. I'm the one who should be getting the divorce compensation." I couldn't help but laugh at her words. Lissa's letter might have been too much, but it was a case of reaping what one sows. A young doctor passing by struck up a conversation with Lissa. "Is that your dad in the common room?" There seemed to be a familiarity in his tone. Lissa responded with a smile. "Maybe not." I watched their exchange with a touch of amusement. After the doctor left, Lissa looked happily at me, catching my gaze and blushing slightly. Then, a nurse mentioned to me that there was laundry piling up. With a smile, I responded, "Understood," and left, pondering that Christian likely had no one to care for him during his hospital stay. On the way back from the hospital, "I might know that woman, his mistress," Lissa mentioned. "Probably a senior from high school," she speculated, recalling a senior who left school halfway through her senior year due to pregnancy. "She must have dropped out because she was pregnant," Lissa mused, tilting her head in thought. She then suggested, "Maybe the child she's carrying isn't Dad's." Lissa shared rumors that the senior had been involved in dubious activities back then. I had a hunch that the father might be someone else. Just a woman's intuition. But it felt likely. It's that intuition they say women have. After some time, the alimony from the divorce trial was paid by my in-laws. And they didn't just transfer it, they brought it in person. They said, "We've been so troubled by what our son has done, truly sorry." As my in-laws apologized, tears in their eyes, kneeling on the floor. "I will accept the alimony from the divorce trial for my sake, but I intend to have no further dealings with my son, Christian," was their stance. Christian had angered the CEO and was fired on the spot. Though Christian received severance pay, it was taken by his affair partner under the guise of alimony for the divorce trial, and after that, he went missing. My mother-in-law tearfully shared this with me. Christian has been hospitalized ever since. Due to artificial dialysis and worsening liver conditions, it seems unlikely Christian will be able to leave the hospital in the future. The alimony from the divorce trial was transferred from the company Christian worked for, probably out of shame for their daughter's scandal. It might be a form of hush money, I guess. The divorce turmoil has settled down. After a long while, peaceful days have returned to me. My lung cancer responded well to treatment, and I was recently informed by the doctor that I'm in remission. Now, regular checkups should suffice. Lissa is off to work. Right now, I'm alone at home. Looking around the empty house, this house originally belonged to my relatives. It was renovated and transferred to my name. The renovation costs came from my savings before I got married. This house is my possession. So, even after the divorce, I won't have trouble finding a place to live. As for Lissa, she recently reported that she's dating a young doctor. During her frequent hospital visits, she received advice from the doctor, and they became close. He was a kind, smiling doctor with a friendly demeanor. She plans to bring him home soon. I don't want Lissa to make the same mistakes I did. But with that doctor, she should be fine. I've lost a lot due to my illness. My marriage was a failure, too. But life still has so much more to offer. And then, the CEO of the company Christian worked for offered me a job. It must have been his way of making amends. It was an office job at a local construction company. They valued my previous work experience at another construction company. Since they said I could work from home, I accepted the offer. Having a stable income greatly reduced my anxiety about the future. I am going to be happier from now on. I don't just want to regret the past, I aim to live looking forward.
The moment I had been dreading finally arrived. My husband, who has tormented me endlessly, and his ever-critical mother. I can't even count the number of tears I've shed, and the times I've been hurt. Despite it all, I've held on, trying my best to fulfill my role as a wife and homemaker. But my husband, he never seemed to care about my struggles. He even decided to move his mother into our home without consulting me. Is your mom all moved in? Of course she is, but here's the thing. Yeah, she's settled in. In fact, I just finished moving back to my parents' home. Wait, what? Your parents' place? His voice over the phone was tinged with panic. I could tell he hadn't seen this coming. But don't think it ends here. I owe you for all the pain you've caused me. My name is Eleanor, a 44-year-old homemaker. I met Raymond at a party when I was 20, and we instantly clicked. Just 3 months later, he confessed his feelings and we started dating. A year later, as I turned 21, he asked, "Will you marry me?" A year after our marriage, I became pregnant and our first son was born. I thought I would have the fairy tale life I had dreamt of during my school days. But life wasn't that simple. Hey, is dinner ready yet? Did you make the bed? That's what Raymond always says when he comes home from work. I sometimes wonder if he thinks of me just as a maid. I'm sorry, I got a bit tied up. I'll get everything ready now. Seriously? Don't you think about how tired I am after work? I deal with so much stress to provide for our family. And remember, I'm a manager. A manager! Whenever something doesn't go his way, Raymond starts ranting about being a manager and makes snide remarks. He wasn't like this when we first got married. People often ask if I'm okay with how he behaves. Of course I'm not. It's unbearable. But honestly, I do appreciate that he brings in the money. Thanks to Raymond's good salary, we've never had financial troubles. But imagine if I challenged him wrongly and he retorted, "You're defying me. Fine. I'll stop contributing to the house then." I wouldn't know what to do. So even if he says a bit much sometimes, I try to tolerate it, though I wish I could say it was always easy. But with the way Raymond's been acting lately, even that tolerance is strained. Like the other day, he ranted. "Why aren't the clothes dry? You didn't even use the dryer, did you? I told you before, I like my clothes feeling cozy. They need to be fluffy from the dryer. I had a lot on my plate with shopping and chores. I didn't get to the dryer. That's not the point. I work hard every day, but what about you? Aren't you a homemaker? Shouldn't you have time for at least this? Raymond never does household chores. He believes that's the wife's job. Just because I'm a homemaker doesn't mean I always have free time. I wish he'd help out a little. It was the same time when our child was born. I'm busy with work. I'm tired. Always some excuse. So I've done all the household and childcare duties by myself. But there's another source of stress. My mother-in-law. Eleanor, did you clean this properly? And what are you planning for dinner tonight? Surely not some takeaway. Whenever my mother-in-law visits, she's always like this. She constantly looks for my mistakes and never hesitates to criticize. Both mother and son act similarly. Like they say, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And today, she started again. Eleanor, how many times have I told you? Clean the house every day to make it comfortable for my son. Why don't you? Are you ignoring my advice on purpose? This is why I was against my son marrying someone like you. You can't even manage the house properly. Just looking at you infuriates me. Constant criticism from Raymond and my mother-in-law, and I endure it all with a smile. But there's one thing I just can't overlook. Mother-in-law's gambling habit. Whenever she has the chance, she's playing poker, slot machines, roulette, or craps. She just loves to gamble. And she spends all her money in the blink of an eye. Worse still, she laughs about it. And Raymond just laughs along with her. Hold on a second. Whose money do you think you're using? The money mother-in-law spends on gambling comes from our household savings. I've brought this up to Raymond multiple times, but I'm just as upset about it. Hey, could you tell Mom? I mean, I could tell her, but if I do, I think she'd be really shocked. Plus, I'm so busy with work, I don't think I can discuss it calmly. He always comes up with these excuses and never acts. So, I decide to convey Raymond's message to mother-in-law for him. Why can't a mother use the money her son earns? He told me I can use as much as I want. She retorted. Thinking that Raymond would back me up, I say, Raymond feels the same way. Could you please stop using our household savings without asking? Right, honey? But Raymond interjects. What are you talking about? The household savings is for all three of us. Excluding only Mom is wrong. Sorry, Mom. Don't listen to her. She's lying. You can use the money as you always have. This is how Raymond always changes his story depending on who he's talking to. Moreover, he started blaming me for mother-in-law's gambling habits, saying they worsened after we got married 3 months ago. That's just not true. Even before our marriage, mother-in-law was gambling frequently. Whenever I went shopping, I'd see her coming out of the local poker club. But when I bring this up to Raymond, he accuses me of lying and then ignores the issue. He'll never see his mother's true colors. The snide remarks keep coming, and I'm getting fed up. Oh, look at the time. I should get going. Wait, Mom. You didn't forget about our plan, right? How are the preparations? Yes, they're well underway. What plan? What are these two up to? I'm taken aback by Raymond's sudden question and try to figure out their scheme. With that, mother-in-law, humming a tune, leaves in high spirits. At last, she's gone. I think to myself. I look over, and Raymond is grinning from ear to ear, waving until his mother's out of sight. A week later, I finally understood the meaning behind Raymond's words about preparations. Have a good day. Slam. As usual, Raymond leaves for work without responding to my farewell. While most couples would greet each other with smiles, that warmth is long gone between us. I gaze out the window and see a neighboring family looking so happy as they walk by. I remember the days when my son and I used to go for walks just like that. Lost in my thoughts in the morning, the doorbell rings. Yes, who is it? Oh, it's you, mother-in-law. Wait, where's Raymond? I wasn't expecting her to show up today, especially not this early in the morning. Oh, something came up at his work, so he had to go in unexpectedly. I see. Why on earth is she here? She's not expecting to have breakfast with me, is she? No way she would think of doing that. Or would she? A flurry of thoughts about mother-in-law raced through my mind. Then she says, "Why are you standing there looking so blank? Get things ready." Ready for what? I haven't eaten anything since this morning. I'm hungry, so make me breakfast. And make sure this doesn't happen again. What does she mean by "from now on"? The words "get ready" that Raymond mentioned earlier and mother-in-law's "from now on" phrase make me uneasy. For some reason, I had a terrible feeling about this. Feeling anxious about their comments, mother-in-law pressures me to make breakfast. I apologize and start preparing the meal. Meanwhile, mother-in-law observes me, not even blinking. More like monitoring than observing, maybe. It's hard to do. Under her piercing gaze, I silently and earnestly prepare the breakfast. Suddenly, mother-in-law says, "It's pitiful to think my son eats this poorly presented food every day. It looks terrible and probably tastes just as bad. I'd love to know how you manage to cook so poorly." She ridicules me, mockingly laughing and complaining. Why do I have to hear this all first thing in the morning? What was supposed to be a pleasant morning felt as if it had turned into a downpour. Sorry for the wait. It took you long enough. How much time do you need for a meal like this? Maybe you should attend a cooking class. Then you might be able to cook something decent. Though even then, it'd be like getting a D instead of an F. Having a meal alone with my mother-in-law for the first time? Seeing her stern face while eating, I lost my appetite, and the meal I put so much effort into tasted bland. Suddenly, my mother-in-law set down her fork, stating, "I don't even feel like eating this. Clear it away." I'm sorry. I just can't take this anymore. I wish she'd leave sooner. But little did I know my wish would be shattered in no time. Ring ring. Excuse me for a moment.
"Hey, Mom's there, right? Let me talk to her."
Handing the phone to my mother-in-law after Raymond's request, she exclaimed,
"You told me we discussed that matter, making me come over so early? Now you say you're at work. What's going on?"
"Sorry, something came up. I'll be back before noon. Just relax till then."
"Hurry up. Being with her is just stressful."
She ended the call with Raymond and returned the phone to me with a slight throw. Trying to ask what Raymond had said, she just glared and told me he'd be back before noon. 3 hours later, Raymond returned home and immediately asked her,
"Sorry, Mom. So, are you ready?"
"Yes, just need to pack my things." "Pack? What?" Before I could process, Raymond dropped a bombshell.
"From now on, Mom will live here too."
What? It was a shock. I always thought it would be just the two of us living here, but now my mother-in-law will be moving in too? The mere thought of my mother-in-law coming here terrifies me. Living a life constantly getting snide remarks from Raymond and my mother-in-law every day? I just can't bear the thought of it.
"Mom, I'll help you move on my next day off."
That would be helpful, but don't bring her along. We don't need someone useless.
"Don't worry, it'll just be me."
The shocking twist left my mind blank, unable to process anything. That evening, Raymond and his mom went out for dinner. Alone, I pondered our future. How would I coexist with the two of them? Was I just supposed to endure everything? Or was there another way? The same thoughts kept replaying, but no answers came. Lost in my despair, I felt tears spilling when suddenly, ring ring, a phone call. Wiping away my tears, I answered, and the voice on the other end was, "Oh," a call from the most unexpected person. The familiar voice echoed in my ear when I picked up the phone. "Mom, it's been a while." "Eric, it has indeed. Have you been well?" "Yeah, I'm good. Granddad and Granny are also doing well. We're all getting along." It was my son Eric on the other end. After graduating from college, Eric took a job at a company near our family home. Because his work was close, he had chosen to live with his grandparents, away from us. "When will you come to visit? It's been years since you last did. The two of them really want to see you." "I'm sorry. I've been so busy and just couldn't make it to the family home." "Busy with what? Isn't it because of Dad and Grandmother?" He hit the nail on the head. The reason I couldn't visit was indeed because of those two. Raymond didn't like the idea of me visiting my parents. As a homemaker, Raymond only sees me as a mere housekeeper. He has this ridiculous notion that I should always be taking care of the home. And his mother-in-law shared the same view. She too only saw me as a convenient housekeeper, always expecting me to tend to the house. So I felt trapped, unable to leave, and just living within the confines of our home. It felt like I was a bird caged up. Eric knew this. He once visited this house and remembered the words Raymond and mother-in-law had hurled at me. "Aren't you a homemaker? Then you need to do your household duties properly. A housekeeper who can't even do chores is useless anywhere. Be grateful you're even needed here by us." It was then that Eric first realized the treatment I was getting from the two of them. "I thought as much." "I'm sorry for making you worry." "Listen, Mom, I have an idea." Then Eric suggested something unexpected. It was something I hadn't ever considered. "Really? Are you serious?" "Of course, it's to help you, Mom." While it might seem obvious, Eric's words became the lifeline I needed for my hellish life. From the next day, while Raymond was at work, I started implementing what Eric had told me to do. Being cautious not to let Raymond notice, and always vigilant for the often unexpectedly appearing mother-in-law. There were a few close calls. "Hey, have you been up to something lately?" "Why do you ask?" "Mom mentioned it. She said you've been acting differently. You're not cheating on me, are you?" Last time, I was saved by Raymond's ridiculous misunderstanding. But I can't underestimate my mother-in-law. She's sharp. I need to be more careful and not let my guard down around her. Still, it's clear that Raymond doesn't really care about me. Well, that's fine. It actually makes things easier for me. In fact, it's a relief. I can't wait to see how they'll react to what comes next. Ring ring. "Mom, how far along are you with the preparations?" "I've got everything ready and I've made a lot of progress. Now we just wait for the day." "Speaking of which, do you know when Grandmother is moving in?" "She's moving in the day after tomorrow. I overheard them talking about it when they were in a good mood." I have to make sure they pay for everything they've done to me. The climax is approaching. The morning my mother-in-law is set to arrive. "Don't slack off just because I'm not around. Also, help Mom with the luggage when she gets here, and keep the house clean. Mom said she won't forgive even a speck of dust." "I understand." After seeing Raymond off, I start the final preparations. Then, the doorbell rings. "Good morning, Mom." "Eric, I'm sorry, but can you help me?" "Of course. Let's get this done quickly before Grandmother arrives." With Eric's help, we finalize everything. And 30 minutes later, all right, let's go. I hop into Eric's car and we head to a certain place. Ring, ring. Hello. The moment has arrived. Raymond and mother-in-law have tormented me endlessly. I don't even know how many tears I've shed or how much pain I've endured. Yet I've persisted, trying my best as a homemaker. But Raymond never seemed to care about my struggles. And he decided to move in with his mother without discussing it with me. Is Mom all settled in? Of course she is, but guess what? Yes, she's all settled, and I've just finished moving back to my parents' home. What? Back to your parents? Raymond's panic was evident, even over the phone. But that's not the end of it. He's got a lot coming his way. I delivered the final blow to Raymond. Today's the day we get divorced. The divorce papers, already filled out with your name, are on the table. When you get home, all you need to do is sign and take them to the courthouse. Just to make sure there's no delay, I've arranged for a lawyer to accompany you. The lawyer will also discuss the division of our assets. Raymond, taken aback, blurted out, "Wait, what are you talking about? Divorce? Are you kidding me?" No matter what you say, it won't change my mind. Oh, by the way, we don't have a single cent in our savings. What? That can't be true. I've been contributing every month. Yes, but your dear mother gambled all that money away. We have nothing left. What? I suggest you and your mother figure things out. Good luck. Right after ending the call with Raymond, his mother showed up at the house, arms laden with bags, enthusiastically ringing the doorbell. I didn't answer. Infuriated, she yelled, "Hey, open up! How long are you going to keep me waiting out here? Open the damn door, you wretched woman! Get out here!" Her screaming and swearing at the front door attracted the attention of a passerby. They suspected her of causing trouble and called the police. In just a few minutes, officers arrived and took her away. About 30 minutes later, a distraught Raymond, unable to focus on his work after hearing the news, rushed home, but I was nowhere to be seen. The only thing waiting for him was the divorce paper on the table. The sight left him completely speechless, and he just sat down devastated. 2 hours later, the lawyer arrived and accompanied a despondent Raymond to the courthouse to submit the divorce papers. At last, our divorce was finalized. The next day, after being released from police custody, Raymond's mother came home, only to find her son deeply affected by the shock of the divorce. Although Raymond had planned to live with her, the trauma of the divorce made him take a leave from work, and a month later, he resigned. With no income, he had to sell the new house they had just built. They managed to get by with the money from the sale, but his gambling-addicted mother depleted it all. Rumor has it, they now live like homeless people in a nearby park. After the divorce, I began to live peacefully at my parents' house. The money from the sale of the house came to me as well. With that money, I commented, "This place is lovely." "Yeah, it's a popular resort hotel these days." I was on vacation with my family. Finally, free from the nightmare, I could live my life on my own terms. That joy is unparalleled.
You just stay home all day, right? Tired from just cleaning? Why don't you try switching places with me and see the real struggle? Maybe I should divorce such a useless wife.
Ugh, not this again. The way my husband treats me, a homemaker, is truly exhausting. My name is Jennifer. I'm a 34-year-old woman. I married David, my coworker, 2 years ago after a workplace romance. Back then, I planned to continue working after marriage. But David said,
I'll work hard outside. You take care of the home. That's my ideal. Men work outside, women protect the home.
I naively agreed. I quit my job to become a full-time homemaker, influenced by David's perspective. I used to be easily swayed by others' opinions. Above all, I deeply loved David. So, I followed whatever he said without questioning. I guess I was blinded by love. If only I had stood my ground and not quit my job. Maybe things wouldn't have turned out this way. That's what I still believe. People think homemakers just laze around at home all day. But in reality, it's not like that. Cleaning, laundry, neighborhood meetings, they all consume more time than one might think. Doing all these tasks daily by myself is honestly tough. Employees get weekends off, but homemakers don't. So, on Sundays when David's home, I'd ask, "Hey, I'm a bit busy. Could you help clean the bathroom?" But he'd instantly get grumpy. "Seriously? I work every day to provide, and now you want me to work at home too? Who do you think provides the meals?" If I dared to say, "I appreciate your hard work during the week, but we're a team, right? Can't you help out a bit on your days off?" David would snap back. "Stop bossing me around. You think you can survive on your own, just being a homemaker? Want a divorce?" David immediately snapped. "Who do you think you are? Just because you're home all day doesn't mean you can boss me around. Want me to divorce you? Think you, just a housewife, can survive on your own?" Shockingly, he threatened divorce. I was at a loss for words. Maybe I shouldn't have reacted the way I did. From then on, every time I said something, David would end with, "If you don't like it, let's divorce." It felt like he was using that phrase to control me. Even though I used to work, I had retired and become a housewife. The idea of divorce that David kept bringing up was terrifying. If he really divorced me, how would I survive? What about income? Where would I live? For me, a housewife, nothing was scarier than the thought of divorce. What scared me the most was David himself. He used to be so kind. How did he change so much after we got married? Did I make a mistake in judging him? I deeply regretted marrying David. Lately, as soon as David comes home, he'd say, "Isn't it obvious you should greet me at the door when I, the breadwinner, come home? Who do you think pays for everything here?" Yes, David earns the money, but I take care of everything at home. We're supposed to be partners, not in a master-servant relationship. It's supposed to be an equal relationship. Yet, David seems to believe he's superior. He looks down on me, thinking he's above. At first, I thought maybe he was venting work frustrations on me, so I kept quiet. But over time, David began to act like he was always right. And every day was like this. After his lecture, David carelessly throws his suit all over the place and changes into casual clothes. I pick them up and toss them into the washing machine. This is a daily routine. Even after eating the dinner I prepared, he complains. "Is this all you can cook? I work hard for you. And this is the meal I come home to?
Where's your gratitude?
I've grown tired of dealing with David's constant complaints. Despite David not earning a high salary, I manage our finances, saving for our future children, leaving little room for extra expenses. Still, I always try to prepare healthy meals, using nutritious ingredients and cutting down on salt. Yet, he still finds reasons to complain. I felt like everything I did was being negated, and my self-confidence dwindled day by day. On top of that, he demands $500 a month for his personal expenses. If I gave him that much, our finances would be in the red. At first, I used some of my savings to cover the expenses, but that wasn't sustainable. So, I tapped into my connections and started a remote job that I could do from home. Of course, I didn't tell David. You see, a while back I had mentioned, "Hey, things are a bit tight with our finances. I was thinking of getting a part-time job. Is that okay?" To which he snapped.
What? Are you saying I don't earn enough? You probably just want extra cash to splurge, right? You should just stick to taking care of the house.
Knowing David, I was sure that if I earned, he'd just take more for his personal expenses. So, I decided to work remotely without telling David. The money I earned went towards our living expenses and savings for the future. A former colleague introduced me to his remote job. I would log into the company system and handle administrative tasks, mainly settling travel expenses claimed by employees. Having experience from my previous job, the work wasn't challenging. More than that, being home all day, this remote job gave me a sense of purpose. It felt rewarding. Then, one day, after juggling remote work and household chores, I was exhausted. I decided to take a short break and lay down on the sofa. That was a mistake. I unintentionally fell asleep and was awakened by David in the evening. It was already night. Of course, dinner wasn't ready, and neither was the bathroom. David, seeing this, sighed and said,
What were you doing all day?
"Lounging around? Neglecting the house?
I come home and you're just napping on the sofa."
Seriously, homemakers are just leeches. Usually I wouldn't react to David's words, but that day I was tired, so I snapped back. "What's your problem? I just happened to fall asleep today. Stop making it sound like I do nothing all day." David, not expecting a retort, turned red with anger.
You're defying me? I'm the head of this household. How dare you speak to me in that tone? If you're going to be defiant, leave this house.
Well, maybe I will. I've been waiting to take some time for myself anyway. It was a classic case of tit for tat. I quickly packed some essentials and headed to a nearby hotel. The look of shock on David's face as I left was priceless. He probably never imagined I'd actually leave. In the past, I would have just been bewildered if David told me to leave. But now, things were different. After all, I had my remote job as a source of income. Being confined to the house and only doing household chores, this job became my only connection to the outside world. The feeling of being appreciated and thanked directly for my work. seeing my efforts being rewarded with a paycheck. Having never received gratitude from David for all the housework, this job had become a significant part of my life. Thanks to my remote job, I gained confidence and strength. Maybe some time apart would be good for both of us. With that thought, I lived in the hotel for about a week. During that time, I continued my remote work from the hotel and even uncovered some fraudulent activities by an employee. Then, one day, my phone rang. It was David. I was thinking it might be time for me to return home, so I hoped this call would be the perfect opportunity. When I answered, David said,
Hey, isn't it about time you came back? You've had some time to reflect, right?
Who does he think needs to reflect here? Even as I was at loss for words, David continued.
You must be missing me, right? Life must be tough without me. If you apologize, I'll let you come back home.
Such arrogance from him. Who does he think he is? So I decided to play it humble and said, I'm really sorry. It was my fault. I miss you every day. Please let me come back home. To my surprise, he responded with such relief.
I knew it. You can't handle life without me. Fine, come back home.
He couldn't even see through my act. I was taken aback, but decided to return home with an innocent face. When I got back, the house was a complete mess. Clothes were scattered